Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis. I don't often day drink, but when I do, it's with a master taster. Melissa Riff from Old Forester this afternoon on Whiskey Business. Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis. Welcome to Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey. Ooh, I don't know about that today, as it is one with whiskey. We're covering both. We're covering all six. We got it about whiskey, with whiskey, and with a very special guest, a special afternoon Whiskey Business, as Melissa Riff from Old Forester is with us, a master taster since 2022. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
2022. And the reason we're doing it in the afternoon is because she has a very busy schedule. Yesterday, you were at the OHLQ warehouse signing bottles.
Yes, that was the largest quantity of bottles I've ever signed at one time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Really?
How's your hand? You got a cramp?
Yeah.
I had to take breaks, honestly.
I bet. Good.
She went
Good
through 3 Sharpies.
Yeah, they actually had a whole box for me, which was great
Whole
because
box of
I'd go through several bottles and then I'd be like, oh man, this one's wearing out, and then I had like a crispy one ready for me.
Nothing
Wow,
better
must be
than-
nice.
You know, a fresh, crisp Sharpie is like an unsharpened, brand new number 2 pencil.
And a new Moleskine.
And a new Moleskine. This is.
Yeah.
This is.
It's almost full.
You're
getting there.
It's getting there. You know what? I'd have more pages in it if Butthead over here would quit writing stuff in it when I'm not paying attention.
I'm giving you. You're
talking to Greg.
I'm giving you motivational speeches.
It's not me.
He doesn't even spell correct.
That one was.
Look how he spelled June.
That's interesting.
J-U-E-N.
That one was after a long night. That was after a long night.
Jewin.
I don't recall that one. Some of them are really, really thoughtful. Like I just want to leave you a nice little message. I have you in mind.
There's a couple I love yous in there. I think.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's very kind.
Tears,
of you.
like the ink
I
is
feel like this
running.
could be a Moleskine commercial.
You can fit right in.
So yeah, you're signing bottles. You have by the time this airs next week, you'll be long gone. But you're going to Chateau Spirits for a tasting.
Yeah, I think we're doing a little Whisky Row tasting and maybe some single barrel action there tonight.
Barrel action.
Yeah, that's also a big part of when I'm on the road. You know, we love to host folks in Kentucky, but not everybody can make it there, or sometimes we're booked because we have a certain size facility. And so when I'm in market, it's nice to be able to connect with people where they're at, which is part of the job.
Well, we're thrilled that you're here.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, our buddy Jeff Fulham, who has brought us nothing but the best from Brown Foreman.
That's true.
On a regular basis over the years. And today, I am sure, will be no exception as we have quite the formidable lineup of Old Forester products. But before we get into any of that, I want to talk about you, Master Taster, since 2022. First of all, can we all agree? Dream job.
Right.
Yes.
Dream job.
Commonly called out as a dream job. Yeah.
Right.
And no argument, honestly. It's it's a very fun job. Marries a bunch of things that I like to do. And you get to enjoy talking about tasting, engaging in bourbon culture with people. So
Okay, so before you got into bourbon, was bourbon? Some people are like, oh, my grandpa drank bourbon and I drank bourbon and my dad drank bourbon and that's why I drink bourbon. But did you discover bourbon later in life, or was it always a part of your life? Because you're from Louisville.
I'm from Louisville. We moved away when I was 11, so I wasn't really aware of the bourbon industry as a child, but I definitely felt like a sense of home in Kentucky, being kind of where I grew up. And I found my way back to Louisville by happenstance for a master's program that has nothing to do with the industry. It was
Imagine that.
for a couple and family therapy.
Yeah, I was going to say, and yet it does.
Yeah,
It does connect.
Yeah,
We'll
it
get
does.
to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of synergy, and I love talking about that because it's everything I've done along my career has been just kind of by happenstance or right place, right time, or taking an opportunity, and it all serves to a certain skill set that features in this job. So it's interesting how it's come together, but I didn't drink whiskey really until I came to Louisville for graduate school. And the Bourbon Trail was really just getting started as 2013. So I think there were like 8 or 9 stops on the Bourbon Trail, big heritage brands. Wow. And the storytelling really sucked me in, which is what happens to a lot of people and why we've seen success on the Bourbon Trail. And once I kind of pulled that thread on the history and the storytelling and really starting to understand the flavor profiles, then I was really kind of interested in it after that. But I didn't really have any influence throughout my life for anyone that was particularly enthusiastic about bourbon.
Okay, so that a relatively fast study. I mean, 2013 isn't all that long ago. I mean, when you think about it, when you first discover bourbon in 2013, and here we are in 2025, and you're a master taster, which is not a level that is not a position that is handed out lightly, I would say.
Yeah, there's not very many of us,
No.
that's for certain. It's a very
not.
specialized role. Yeah, I think the fact that I started as a tour guide on the Bourbon Trail serves to that point because, first of all, you are taught and trained by the brand that you're presenting. And so being a tour guide every day, you tell that story and you talk about that product and you're teaching people about it, which is really brand education is a huge part of what I do now. But then consumers in this category, really starting in 2010, are more interested than ever in these products on a granular level, right? You guys serve to prove that point that you're sitting right here doing a whiskey podcast. Not every consumer good has that level of education and enthusiasm. And so those people are coming on your tours and they're asking you questions, compelling you to find out more information, or sometimes teaching you something that you don't know because they've been to 8 other distillery tours and they know this guy in their hometown that runs a whiskey store that
Right.
and so it all comes together to just build knowledge. And I'm really kind of a conversationalist. That's why I love podcasts. So I'm happy to be here.
Did you were you the tour guide at Old Forester or
No, I was
place?
at a facility called Stitzel-Weller, which is really historic. It was the origination
so.
of the Pappy kind of
Yes.
story.
Oh, interesting.
It's where W.L. Weller was established. It has a big Old Fitzgerald smokestack, so it's not, it has lots of industry history, which is one of those right place, right times, because I got a foundational education in industry history because we were telling the story of Stitzel-Weller, but it was a home place for Bulleit when Bulleit was first really booming onto the scene. And so we were presenting it as the Bulleit experience, but we were tasting Bulleit, I.W. Harper, and Blade & Bow.
Oh, wow.
So that was also a really eclectic portfolio.
Yeah.
And I was with an agency, but it was for Diageo brands. So now I'm really intrigued by I'd never thought about beverage alcohol corporations before. So now I'm like on the periphery of what's happening there, and I'm understanding what a 3-tier system is, you know, and it's all kind of like working in my brain, and I've just been really like interested. I'm a very like continuous learner, so that's where it all comes from. Yes, a sponge, and then you're regurgitating this information 3-4 times a day for groups, and teaching people. And I don't know if you guys know, but like teaching people is how you learn and like solidify comprehension.
The more you
know,
speak,
in your brain.
the more you put it out there, you actually do learn yourself and get better at what you do.
Yeah, so that was like, it just so happened to be a really good foot in the door, really at a time when the industry was like, opportunities were presenting themselves like.
We keep a tally of all the bottles that we've tried and sampled. This is a field day today. We're gonna add.
It's very pretty too.
Yeah, it's very.
I wanted to give you guys some options, so we're gonna talk through the brand, and you can kind of pick and choose like what type of expression you want to try.
I would say we don't need to. I'm not saying I want to try this. I'm just making a comment that I feel like Old Forester would be my everyday whiskey.
Well, actually, while we get started, do you guys want to just sip on our standard?
Yeah, the everyday pour.
Yeah.
Because I've said it 1,000 times.
That's why
on this podcast.
That's why I don't stock it, because I drink it. I'm kidding.
I've said it 1,000 times on that Old Forester. Everybody says, "What do you drink? What's your favorite?" And I hate that question when
Me
people
too.
ask me that.
I can never give an answer.
There's different bourbons and
Changes
whiskeys.
based on the day.
Right, but as far as an everyday pour goes,
Old Forester.
Old Forester 86 got me through the pandemic
All right.
because it was reasonably priced.
Yep.
It's only like $24, I think.
Yeah, reasonably priced. You know, you could drink it every day. 86 proof. It's not going to kill you, especially if you're, you know.
It's for breakfast.
Hey, I have a shot of whiskey every day.
I actually have a great event concept for Old Forester, really promoting it as a brunch whiskey.
Oh, that's an
Which I think is an
excellent idea.
untapped part of our market.
It's
less than 90 proof.
Capitalize on that for sure.
Well, and we have a really interesting flavor profile. I appreciate that you guys say it's great everyday pour, because that's definitely part of our ethos. I call us like the Levi's jeans of the industry, because it's just like reliable, consistent, price friendly, you know. And we like to say Old Forester, especially our core portfolio, these guys down here, are the best value for flavor, neat rocks cocktail.
Right.
Bar none.
It's great.
Right.
You know.
I'm on the rocks.
And I would drink it on the rocks.
One Kentucky Derby I had.
The Old Forester.
Bunch
Well, here,
of
let's
juleps with that.
let's have a welcome, Melissa.
Thank
Cheers
you.
to start
Cheers,
off
thanks for
with
coming.
our everyday pour. So greatly appreciated.
Oh, it's just so good.
Always
Yeah.
solid, very solid.
Right.
It's sweet,
Every
and then
time.
it gives you that little
Every time.
tip of the tongue bite.
Yeah, it delivers on like what you want out of your bourbon. It checks the boxes: the sweet aromatics, caramelization, the spice, baking spice. The difference maker for us, and it really comes. We'll get into history at some point during our conversation, but we've carried this yeast strain with us for generations and propagated it and tried not to let it mutate, so that we create this like fingerprint of flavor, and it creates a lot of fruits and florals for us.
Real fruity.
So that's, I think, the difference maker is like, we hit those classic notes, but then we also get this depth of flavor coming from the fruits.
I'm going to quote you from a very recent OHLQ.
Oh wow, you did your homework
You
before
can
this.
play.
This is the most he's ever written down for a guest.
Yeah, he's out there working before you got here.
You can play only in the Old Forester. You have everything you want. Have everything you want in bourbon.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
That's actually instantly. That's the cool thing about working on a brand for a while. I'm like take a bit of a method actor approach to my work. Like, I really like to live and breathe a brand. I'm all about swag. The fact that I don't have my branding on today is actually strange. So you guys,
I think this is your branding. I think this is your branding right
Yeah,
here.
I think you're good.
I think
Well,
you're covered.
yeah.
Be able to
Yes.
sit behind the
I think
bottles
the wall of
anyway.
Old Forester. I think it's covered. It's covered in the branding base today.
Yes, but some ways to frame something, and that's been something I've realized about Old Forester recently that I've really been putting out there a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want.
Yeah.
I want to go back before we start digging in questions for you. I have many questions, but one of them is that you gently mentioned your previous course of study, but you have a master's in social work, and social work. This is very social work,
It's
but
it's people work. Yeah.
Interesting. You said how what you studied and what you got a master's in can sincerely apply to what you do, because in social work you're meeting all different types of people,
Yeah.
characters, and whatnot. And in this world, you're meeting all types of people, characters,
Yep.
and whatnot. And to be able to have the educational background to gauge where you're at, and then combine it with this background, I would think the two end up complementing each other magnificently.
And my prerequisite degree for my bachelor's was in human development, and family studies is what the program was called. And so, human development's a big part of consumer insights. So that's a really fascinating part of the industry that I've just had access to get to know a little bit more from a data perspective. Who are consumers? How are they behaving? Where can you reach them where they're at? Because that's what therapy is about, is meeting people where they're at, and then kind of understanding their thought processes. And then the family studies part of it, and what I learned specifically in my master's program, because I have a master's in social work, but the reason I came back to Louisville is because the social work school not here, I'm in Columbus right now. The social work school.
You're on a whirlwind. You're on the road. You're on the road a lot.
The school in University of Louisville was unique at the time. Now it's kind of common to have specializations within a social work school, but at the time they were one of the first schools that allowed you to get a specialization where you could actually get a dual license.
Okay.
So I could get licensed in social work or family therapy. And I really liked the family therapy bit and the systems therapy. So systems theory is all about working with systems in their life to help get them unstuck, and there are different modes of therapy. I was really attracted to something called narrative therapy, which is all about the self-talk and the narratives, how we frame the things that are happening to us and how we're behaving, and how you can reframe that to kind of unstick yourself. And so if you think about that,
perspective,
all about perspective, all about reframing, all about being able to kind of like put your mindset in a different point of view, and allow yourself to work through it, and also work within your systems to set up systems that work for you as well, support systems and things like that. So if you think about applying that to like the way that whiskey works, it's like, first of all, you've got a 3-tier system where you have to be talking to different channels, and you have to figure out how to communicate one brand story and ethos and flavor to all these different, to distributors who are going to be thinking about the brand one way, to trade, who we're selling our product to sell it to the consumer, and then consumers who are asking for the product and really growing awareness. And so that really attracted, I think that's what sucked me into it all, is it's like, how do you like decode, how do you unlock that for all those channels? And then how do you like create a brand that's like really rooted in authentic ethos? And the history of this one is really makes it really easy to be authentic, because we've just been around for a long time.
And how cool that I don't know what type of parents you have, but I have a very judgmental
I was wondering where you were going to go with this.
Mother.
What?
Judgmental. So you can say that you're actually still using your degree.
Yeah.
Right? To some extent.
That's parents. I'm sure at one point when I said, "Oh, I'm gonna leave my therapy job," and I was like convinced I was just gonna do this for a year. And they thought it was cool. I think they were into it, and like net, the income was the same, if not slightly better, because I was making tips. And so I think they were on board for it. And then the more my career's grown, I think they've just been like pretty astonished at how that left turn turned out. I mean, me too, honestly. But my dad's he's become kind of a bourbon fan through it all too. But yeah, no judgment from them, even though it was probably a bit of a surprise. But surprised myself, honestly. So
you mentioned this. Were you behind the stick? Did you bartend?
Actually, thank you for asking that, because I always try to find a minute to slide that in there, because a lot of people think that I come from a bartending background, but I have tremendous respect for bartenders, because the work that they do is awesome, and it's totally a knowledge gap of mine. And so I will say I beer tended. So I worked at a brewery where we only tapped beer, which is the best job ever, because it's very low lift and you basically get to like shoot the shit with people all night at like a pretty cool place.
It's hard to screw up those drinks.
It's hard to screw it up. And for me, it was also one of the origin points of like my kind of flavor exploration, because I got really into beer. I love beer as much as I love whiskey, probably.
Really?
Not as much about the production side of it. Like, I'm not a fermentation nut, and like I don't know a lot about beer brewing, but from a consumer side, I love drinking beer, and I like pairing whiskey and beer. And
I'm with you on a good bartender. They're magical. I call them libationary scientists.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff that they come up with, that they can take your product and do something like to just blow your mind with, because they have concocted and decided to mix this with that and add a little touch of this and then come up with something. Here, try this.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is when I'm in a market sometimes with a bartender that we have a relationship with as a brand, and they'll just like serve us experimental cocktails. And it's just awesome, because they're as interested in flavor as we are, from a supplier side. So it's a cool relationship to get to have. And so I think between the brewery and the tour guiding, I consider myself coming from a hospitality background for sure, and I'm obsessed with hospitality. But I don't have a lot of service industry background specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're making up for it on the other side.
Parts of this job is getting to advocate for that industry. I love.
Yeah, I can appreciate the fact that someone who hasn't done something has that much more appreciation for who has done it and continues to do it.
I think that's a signal we're going to try a different one now.
Oh, I don't know. I just noticed the rest.
I didn't dump much. But I'm also realizing that I got to pace myself. As we think.
I finished mine. I'm not a quitter.
And we don't have to try every single one. Try every single one of these.
I think we kind of do. We've been seizing the moment here.
This will feel bad. This will feel bad for the other one.
We don't want to be rude.
I just wish I didn't have anything else to do after this, but I do.
Well, how about I pour the next one, and if you
and tell us about the next one. What are we gonna have here?
So the first
what are we gonna have here?
So the first one we started with is our flagship, and we really see it a lot in bars as a premium well, and like you guys said, really reliable value bottle to take home. This is going to be a higher proof offering, so this is what we call our signature 100 proof. Also great value on the shelf.
It is.
Because this is going to deliver a little bit more body, richness, structure, and so in a bar or restaurant, you'll find it a lot at like a featured cocktail on the menu or a household fashioned. We also have a counterpart to this that's a rye. It's the best rye on the market, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't find it on a regular. As soon as it shows up, it's gone. It is, and I'm not saying
probably popular.
I'm not saying it because you're here and Jeff's here, because he also does stuff for Jack Daniels, and I like their rye as well. But the Old Forester rye, it's really good. It's again moderately priced, great price, great
really
price
good
point,
value. Yeah,
and by far one of my favorite ryes.
Yeah,
and I can. Never find it.
We'll figure. We've got plenty. We're really trying to spread the word about rye. For a while we had laid some down. It got really popular, and we were kind of catching up our production to it. We make all of our rye in house, and so rye takes a little longer to produce. It's a little bit kind of dirtier in your equipment. Yes. It kind of slows down your production a little bit, but we've really been committing to it. We really believe in it as a rye whiskey. So we're excited for more and more people to get their hands on it. So we'll troubleshoot that. Troubleshoot that for you, man.
What did I say 10 years ago?
You called it. Ryes are coming, baby.
Ryes are coming. I said
they are, and what I like about ours is that it's really friendly for folks that aren't necessarily like big rye drinkers, because we use 65% rye, 20% malted barley, and 15% corn. So the malt quantity, I think, for us kind of like rounds out the flavor profile.
Are you a bourbon or a rye person for an old fashioned?
I like rye better.
Yeah. Rye's the way to go. I'm not a huge fan of the old fashioned period as a drink, but if I'm going to have one, it'll be with rye.
Yeah.
And every time I say I'm not a big fan of the old fashioned, what do you think I hear from every bartender?
Oh, you haven't had mine.
Yeah, you haven't had my old fashioned. You haven't had my old fashioned.
I always say leave the is just disgusting in an old fashioned.
Really? I'm not a big cherry fan per se either, but I don't know. I guess because I come from a background where like I said, my grandfather drank bourbon, and he or on the rocks, and I just like attacking what's in that bottle and seeing how it is, naked. As it is, and how it should be before it starts getting mixed in other things.
I've had a greater appreciation for drinking on the rocks lately, which I usually do out at a bar, just to kind of like pace, sip it, and it's a little bit more diluted.
It's got water in it.
Actually, really, sometimes when I'm drinking a whiskey on the rocks, even at home, and it's like really like diluted down after a while, I'm kind of nursing it. It's good. It's refreshing. It's kind of like thirst quenching, and I think to myself, like, when Old Forester was founded, like late 1800s, that's probably how most people, especially early 1900s, as ice became more available, like that's how people were drinking it. And so when we think about people like loving this product that came out of Kentucky, like that was it, and it was really refreshing. It was a summertime drink sometimes.
And I will tell you that I mentioned that the 86 got me through the pandemic, but there were times where I went and stepped it up to the 100 proof, because there were days during the pandemic where I said 86 proof ain't gonna cut it this week. I need the 100 proof, and then still pleasantly surprised that I have not had my sip yet. Have you guys already done yours?
Yeah. This is going to have a little bit more baking spice, darker, richer caramels. It's a lot more like black cherry, dark red fruits versus the like citrus, tropical orchard fruits we get on the 86 proof.
Yeah, that's already we've just went up a step,
and it's different. But you could tell from the same portfolio. Yeah. It's part of the same family.
Yeah. Well, and they make one, for the most part, with one bottle exception, we make one bourbon recipe. So everything that we put out from Old Forester that's a bourbon, it is the same distillate going into the barrel. Every barrel goes into the warehouse with the potential to be any one of our SKUs or our expressions. And so we kind of we dial in and dial down and dial up like different parts of our flavor profile to create all these differences. But where some companies will create like a whole portfolio of different brand names, changing the grain bill and the yeast strain and this, that, and the other, we can create that whole portfolio, that universe I was talking about playing within, out of one core recipe by just kind of manipulating
That's
it.
great. That's where the science comes in, and
Yeah.
like the nuances.
Nerdiness.
Yes.
Science.
Yeah.
Delicious. Delicious.
You don't have to answer it right now, but how does one get certified to become a master taster? Well, I want to know the test process there.
Something so you can find out what you're never,
What I'm never going to be accomplished.
And aspire to.
There's no real master taster, to be honest. And people always ask me, how do you become one? And I'm like, I don't know, because I didn't know I was going to become one. Like, I was just like kind of like bopping along, doing what I can. A master taster role is not common. A lot of companies have master distillers, master blenders. A master taster role is really like what a company wants it to be. By definition, it kind of sits with a master distiller or master blender, and it's about continuous quality assurance. So making sure that the product stays consistent and high quality, protecting its integrity, but also developing new innovations, special releases, like really kind of working on the evolution of the product in the portfolio. So from a liquid standpoint, that's definitely what I do. I work on new expressions, our innovation series out of the distillery. I work on anything that comes out once a year, like birthday bourbon.
Yeah.
But then
bourbon.
The way that Brown-Forman leverages the master taster role is that I kind of have a finger on the pulse of the liquid, and so then I can bridge that into marketing.
How many master tasters are there?
That's a good question. I honestly have no idea. I can probably think of 3 or 4 other brands that have one off the top of my head.
There's only one at Old Forester? There's only one at Old Forester?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we
Okay.
have an assistant master distiller, Caleb Trigo, and he's really the one overseeing our day-to-day operations these days. He's amazing. The two of us love working together. And he has been an engineer at Brown-Forman actually since he was a co-op engineer intern out of University of Louisville. So he's been at the company a long time and has that like really technical knowledge.
Right.
And then Chris Morris is our master distiller emeritus. So he's been working for Brown-Forman like 50 some years at this point. He's done it all. And so he really oversees kind of on an advisory level. And then the three of us.
Overseas and is probably seasoned and getting better at his job with each passing year.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, he's awesome to learn from. So it brings something really different to the table. And we kind of work as a team collaboratively.
Mm-hmm. So you have to pretty much drink bourbon every day.
Not every day, definitely. And I go through kind of breaks, especially like I'm traveling a lot right now. So I do a lot of tastings. So when I get home, I'll probably go a little while without any. But I also spit my samples out a lot, which is something I got used to doing when I was working in single barrels, because it's just too much to be consuming it like all day, every day.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't saying that in a judgmental way. I was saying it in an envious way, to be perfectly honest with you.
Right?
I was like I said, I it's an old school thing of mine, but I drink one little shot of whiskey every day just for medicinal purposes, as they say.
That'll be when you're turning 100. How do you do it? How do you do it?
You know what? Hey, I can't tell you the last time I was sick. So,
And a Big Mac.
yeah,
A shot of whiskey and a Big Mac every day.
Okay, so we're moving in from the 100 to now we're getting into this whole.
I have that one.
You have not had any of the 1800s or the 1900s.
I've had the 1910,
I mean,
I believe.
Talk about.
gotta work
And I don't want to steal Melissa's thunder by any stretch of the imagination when I say this, but talk about combining the quality of making great bourbon and incorporating history into the mix as well to complement that and educate and actually identify, let a bottle actually identify a year and have a history behind it. Old Forester has done a remarkable job of spilling whiskey on his own podcast. That's why I put the towel down.
Did the hand wave and
you
knocked down his glass.
this is a different covering, Hansberry.
I did notice.
Because the blue one has a big, huge bourbon stain on it
Well,
from the
now
last
that one
time.
does,
The
too.
last time that you spilled.
It's
Was it
So
for
now-
me?
That was from you.
All right,
So-
good. Well, now we're even.
It's okay.
Do you have enough in there?
I got enough
All
in
right.
there. I'm fine. I'm fine.
I was like, as soon as you did that, I was like, thank God.
I was
like,
excited
I'm the only one.
about.
I
I
am
was
not the
excited
only
about
one.
the litany of words I was using to
So history.
admire this line of whiskeys.
History, and thank you for the tee up, because history is half the point in this series. And I think for folks who maybe just know us for our core portfolio, again, because it's really like price friendly and accessible, and hopefully anywhere and everywhere people are going to find whiskey. The point we want people to know about this is that we make that singular recipe, and that we've been around, over a century and a half. We've never been interrupted during our time as a bourbon brand, before, during, after Prohibition, and every day until now. And so what that means is that we've gotten really good at understanding our craft and how to make our product and how to really maximize and optimize our flavor. So if you know anything about Old Forester, that's kind of the main point we want people to walk away with. But if you have time to sit with us a little and kind of take the ride, we have so much fun history, because we were founded in 1870 and really kind of established a paradigm shift in the industry, and then, existed there on after. We have a lot of stories that we can tell, and because of that, we have a really cool archives department on our brand and for our company. So we're the founding brand for Brown-Forman. Our archives team, literally folks on a team who manage digital and print and bottles and liquid and point of sale items, and old log books. And so they can look back in our history and teach us things about our brand that we can kind of bring to life.
So Brown-Forman bought Old Forester. Old Forester.
Old Forester established Brown-Forman.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The
So
other
when
way
and
around.
do you want to hear a little bit about our origin story?
Sure.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I do.
Cool.
And then I wasn't being rude and looking at my phone while you're talking. This is Old Forester related, because I want to share this when we get to it. Actually, before we get to it, but go ahead, tell him what's going on.
Okay.
Tell him the story.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then this is relatable.
Okay. So we were founded, there was a guy in 1870, his name was George Garvin Brown. So that's where the Brown and Brown-Forman comes from.
Makes sense.
And George was a pharmaceutical salesman. So he was selling, lots of different pharmaceuticals of the 1870s, the biggest of which was medicinal whiskey. Mm-hmm. And so Kentucky...
See? Medicinal.
Medicinal
Yeah,
whiskey.
yeah.
And it was medicinal for a long time after that. So, when we tell the story, we kind of remind people this was a big industry in addition to whiskey that was going to saloons, or people were buying to take home. People were purchasing this, because it was considered a medicinal product. And there were really good distillers in Kentucky making quality product, but there were also rectifiers kind of just throwing shit together and calling it bourbons so that they could get that sale made quicker.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so some of that stuff would make people sick. It would even kill some people. And if you're selling a pharmaceutical product, that's really bad for business. And so
I'd say so.
George set out to solve a business issue. That's what I tell people, is that I don't really think he was crusading to be the first bottled bourbon, but he was kind of trying to figure out how to create a package for a product that guarantees its quality. And glass packaging wasn't a commercial part of any industry at this point. There was one consumer good in glass before Old Forester, was Heinz ketchup, and it was just the year before. Fun fact.
That is a good
And
fact.
I just love to tell people that, because it's hard to imagine a world where things aren't packaged in glass. But this was one of those things where he went to extra lengths. He sourced from 3 distilleries in Louisville, batched the whiskey together, created a profile he could recreate over and over again, and then he put it in glass bottles with tamper-proof seals. So these are all practices that the industry still uses today.
Sure.
Glass packaging, batching for consistency, tamper-proof sealing, guaranteeing the quality of something. And this went on to inspire...
Guaranteeing it won't kill you.
Right, exactly.
Cure you.
Yeah.
It will cure you. It will cure you.
And Old Forester brand after that, because people understood that when they revisited this brand, they knew exactly what they were getting. And so that went on to inspire the Bottled and Bond Act, which again is communicating through a package on the label. If something says bottled and bond, it's been vetted by the government at this point. This is federal legislation. And because of these two moments in our industry's history, we've been able to maintain bourbon whiskey as this highly regulated but really reliable spirit. It's only its natural ingredients: grains, yeast, oak, water. And so this is part of that journey. And the industry's always been really big on self-accountability for creating a quality product because of what was happening prior to the establishment of Old Forester.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
So anyway, so Brown went on to start Brown Forman, and now the family still controls majority stake of the company, but they went on to acquire brands like Jack Daniel's in the 1950s. We invented Woodford Reserve in the 1990s. And so I always like to remind people that was all built up.
Wow.
There you go.
Humble brag.
And now I know.
This might be a loaded question, but was the original bottles, were they just so even though he wanted to batch them consistent and he had the tamper-proof bottle, like the bottle, why was it necessary for the bottles and Bond Act to like we've learned about what it is. Mm-hmm. But like, were there still being bottles of whiskey with like 150 proof and making people blind and stuff?
Yeah, so there would still be so rectifiers would still be making their product. They just started putting it in bottles, so you still couldn't quite tell the difference because there was no regulation. One of the big rules with bottled and bond is it's 100 proof, and that's because people would put tea and prune juice and cherry juice and water and just like dilute this grain spirit down, so you thought you were getting a foolproof product. You paid your good money for it.
I picture it. I picture it being like overly proof, but they're they're putting proof additives in it to make it look like dark and like and most stuff was 90 proof was our original proof. So a lot of alcohol at the time was 90 to 100 proof, which was for like sippability. So you might get something that was way under that or way over that. This was the only way to standardize it. But you could still sell whatever you wanted. Also. Mm-hmm.
Whatever you wanted. And even after Bottled and Bond Act, you could still sell whatever you wanted, but a lot of people started only buying bonded products because it was the only way they kind of knew, it's been through this vetting process. And the other big rule is that it had to age for at least 4 years. So prior to that, you could not age it at all and put just a darkening agent in it and call it old something. And so now, it's developed the characteristics with age.
So now it's almost obsolete. Like we don't really need it, but there's
correct.
Whatever.
And the thing that really sets it apart from what we do the rest of the kind of SKUs these days is that usually we're batching from a range of years to give ourselves agility and bringing that consistent flavor profile together. Bottled and bond can only come from one season.
Right.
And so it's each one of these is going to be a more narrow snapshot of our inventory, and we're really choosy about where it comes from, and that's part of what makes it smaller batch, more craft.
Yeah, I love bottled and bond bottles just because of that what you just said.
It's like a single barrel.
It's like it kind of in a sense. Yeah, it's a one and done. It's that season. It's it. The text message I was looking for, because I saw this who's been on this podcast and has as a result has become, it's interesting when I meet friends who were kind of like, sure, I'll try a bourbon, and then become bourbon nuts. Yeah. They just go way off.
It sucks you in.
Yeah, he got sucked in. He said, this is our buddy Dan Swartout.
Okay, Dan.
Says, I was at a charity tasting. The regional Old Forester rep was there when the charity event was, but he said he bought the entire Whisky Row series, including the bottle that I see over there, the 1924, which we'll get to here before it's all said and done, because I show today.
Yeah, that's a fancy one. It's a fancy one.
Yeah, fancy one. He also bought 2 bottles of the 1920 that weekend. He says the only weekend they've been available here so far, so obviously they're flying off the shelf. Have you ever? They explain the history and the process. It's fascinating stuff. Well, Dan, you should be here today and listening. But yeah, he's very enamored with her, and has a bottle of the 1924 as we speak. So when we close with that, I'll be able to actually
onto the text.
Is he still Mayor Swart?
No, he's not the mayor anymore. He's not the mayor anymore. No. He went back to being a lawyer
and a comedian
and a comedian and a bourbon.
What's the difference?
And a bourbon nut. Yeah. Anyway, but so yeah, there you go.
It's like when the reason this series works is when people hear the story and they get the product on the palate, especially all of them together. It's really educational experience for noticing different flavors and textures, for that matter. People get really sucked into it when they get those two things together, tasting and getting to learn the stories.
I think it's great. I mean, if you can find something that has a story behind it, maybe it's unconscious, but I think it kind of enhances the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
You know from what you're drinking and why you're drinking it and how it came to be. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, where are we now? We're at
1870 original
right.
batch.
Yep.
So this kind of tells our origin story. It's original batch, so we wanted to speak to what makes us different. So this is going to be that fruits and florals profile. It's definitely kind of our easiest, breeziest, all about finesse. It's got a lot of silky honey notes, bright apple, a little bit of cinnamon and clove.
It might have been just not enough before I spoke.
Yeah, silky is a good.
Just,
very light.
I think I don't think enough to appreciate the silky. That's good.
I remind people that whiskey is just as much about texture as it is about flavor. So getting into this series, even on the first two, it's a great teachable moment about that, because this doesn't have a lot of structure. It's really silky. You get the spice profile, but it's not standing up on the palate. And you'll see when we get to the bottled and bond, it's got a lot more pepper, and the baking spices last a lot longer on the palate. So the silkiness of this one is definitely part of what makes it appealing. And people who are just getting into the category, maybe they haven't had a lot of bourbon and they want something sweeter and more mellow, this is an awesome starting point. But for people who drink whiskey every day and just like to change it up, this is a really nice kind of, like I said, sippable.
I honestly, don't think, I think this is the first time I've had the original 1870. I've had the 1897 and the 1920. It's going to be a new experience. It's going to be a new experience for me. This is 1870 is new. The 1910, I don't think I've had, and definitely not the 1924.
Are all of these available? All the time?
Yeah,
Year-round,
no
whatever you wanna say?
allocations. They should be widely available. And the cool thing is, if you can get a whole set, which is so great that he did, I encourage people to like keep this on your bar at home and like change it up, or make yourself a little flight to like play around with some sensory one night. Or when people come over to your house, they get to pick and choose and kind of understand the differences.
I'm supposed to go to Dan's, and I said privately, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to go right down. He goes, I need help, and I'll be.
Yes.
We're definitely going to be.
Yes.
We're definitely going to do the
Good idea.
the whole Old Forester ride, if you.
Got 1870, and then we'll move on to bottled and bond, that 1897, and I kind of went through some of those rules.
I had this one.
Is that the year bottled and bonded was started?
Yeah, so between 1870, you guys were asking about between 1870 and bottled and bond, U.S. distillers, and mostly from Kentucky, they get so fed up with the industry being undercut when they're putting out a good product that they actually lobby the government to pass this legislation. And they say, we want to put something in place that kind of vets products. And so bottled and bond is what happens. And then 9 years later was the Pure Food and Drug Act. So this was actually what inspired like consumer goods regulation in the U.S. And I always tell people, Old Forester history is bourbon history, which is also intertwined with American history. So I think that's part of what fascinates people about it.
Prohibition, everything.
Yeah. So because this was a revolutionary act for the whole industry, this is a really classically styled Kentucky bourbon. It checks all those boxes. You're going to get a lot more barrel influence than the 1870. This was really juicy and fruity and floral, and this is a lot more woodsy, warm. The baking spices, the black pepper kind of dialed up, and so you see it has a little bit more backbone than the last one.
I mean, it's 100 proof, but it goes down so smooth. It's so good.
Yeah, really rich characteristics.
Nice.
And there's a couple things we do. I mean, do you guys want to know about what we do that kind of allows us to...
No, moving on.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. Yeah,
we're good.
Go for
We
it.
want everything you got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the fruits and come from the esters developed in fermentation. But now that we're talking about more candy-like notes, what we call sweet aromatics and barrel spice, that gets down to how we treat our barrels. And, bourbon barrels have to be charred. That's where you get caramelization and spice and lactones and things like that. But in the 90s, we started pioneering toasting pods. And so bourbon hadn't historically used toasting of barrels. That was kind of wines and cognacs and things of that nature. But because people had kind of fallen out of favor with bourbon, we were looking at techniques that other spirits were using. And so we kind of fiddled around with low, slow, indirect heat. And that was when we were pulling together the flavor profile for Woodford. And that's when we figured out, because like I said, for a century and a half, we've been obsessed with how flavor is developed. And so that's when we learned a lot about wood science and kind of understanding what toasting does for flavor. So we use indirect heat, about 15 minutes, and it caramelizes like about a 1/4 inch of wood sugars into that stave. And so instead of just having a char with a little residual toast, you get this really kind of, I call it the ooey gooey layer, because it's just like slow roasting your marshmallow. Gets ooey gooey in the center. That's going to give us that like rich depth of flavor that you're getting there.
What char numbers? I know there's different char numbers, right? Like 1 through 5.
So we char for about 45 seconds. Sorry, my contact's been killing me today. We char for about 45 seconds, which is like basically a 3.5. We've been producing our own barrels since 1945, so we haven't really adhered to the level system. We kind of dial it in based on the temperature for the day and number of seconds, but that's basically, it's like a 3.5.
Love it.
And then from being a single barrel, what's the difference between the 700 proof and then just the Old Forester 100 proof?
So it's not a single barrel.
Well,
yeah,
whatever.
it is. It's batched from a single season. Yeah,
single
just
season.
I know that seems like semantics.
Cut you off.
No, it is semantics, but you're right. Those are the nuances.
But that really is the biggie from a range of years, and probably from like a wide swath of our warehouses, big cross sections to create that kind of broad signature flavor profile. Whereas this is going to be a little bit more meticulous, and it's much smaller batch.
Gotcha.
And so we bring it together to meet this flavor spec, so that it's a little tobacco-y, leathery, spicy, candy-like.
It's got a nice long finish.
Yeah,
really
it just kind of
does.
lasts there.
It's still giving me the hug.
Yeah, because you're getting those tannins, which are what's going to kind of like linger on the taste buds.
And in 3 years, this is going to taste a little bit different, right? Because it's going to be from a loosely.
Arguably, but it actually stays relatively consistent because our warehouses, and we can get into this, we use a system called heat cycling, which is also kind of a difference maker for us. It's a good example of us going to kind of extra lengths at the expense of more evaporation. It's more expensive to run a heat cycled warehouse, but it develops a lot of really good flavor because it uses steam in the wintertime when our barrels would otherwise hit that contraction point around 50 degrees and then sit dormant. Anything below that, we generate steam in the wintertime that kind of low and slow raises the temperature of the warehouse and then turns off and lets it fall. And so we get really good flavor extraction from our oak, but it also means that we get a little bit higher evaporation point. All that to say, that we're able to maintain a lot of consistency.
Season
after season.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, if you can control that, the weather.
Funny, I was recently digging around in our archives because I'm a nerd and I'm obsessed with the archives department. And I found a training manual from 1941 explaining like our commitment to that maturation style. So this heat cycling is something we've been doing since the early 1900s, and they called it controlled weather. And I was like, that is so fascinating that they called it that. So yeah, they basically say you get an extra season cycle out of every year.
Wow.
Which reminds me of like plant cultivation. You know, it's like you can play with light to do that. It's like you can play a little bit with temperature. It's not meant to speed up maturation, but it's meant to get a little bit more flavor extraction.
Cool. I'm curious if daylight saving time has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Before it's all said and done.
So that's the bottled and bond, and again, classic bourbon really delivers on that. It's one of my absolute favorites, and it makes a nice elevated classic cocktail, like a old fashioned, especially if you play with some like fancy bitters. Really good with that.
Okay, now I'm excited because now we're coming across one that I've never tried. Hansberry, do you have a little bit of water I can rinse this out with? Because I wanna. It's okay with the other ones because I've had them, but I want to try this one clean. This is.
So this is what we call old fine whiskey.
Old fine whiskey. Now that's an interesting choice of verbiage.
So that is part of the history of it. And this is a really fun story. This is a fan favorite, I think, because people love the story of 1910. So we were operating out of a commercial space on historic Whisky Row, which is actually the exact same spot that our visitor center is in now. That was our commercial office space from 1882 until Prohibition. And we had our bottling line operations in the basement. And so we were operating business as usual. October 1910, a fire breaks out on the main floors, and we have finished whiskey on the bottling line ready to go in glass. So they have to get it off the line as quickly as possible. Best thing they can do is dump it in new charred barrels that were waiting to go to the distillery to get filled. And so they dump the whiskey in, they roll it out. It ends up integrating in with the rest of their inventory, sits for about 2 years, and when the company kind of finds these barrels and taps into them, they taste really different than Old Forester because they effectively just double-barreled their whiskey without knowing. So they didn't want to call it Old Forester because they had generated a kind of a reputation of that name. They called it Old Fine Whiskey because that's what our president said it tasted like, president of the company. And they basically sold it, gave it away to friends and family of the brand. You know, it was a blip in our history. Nobody ever really thought about it again after that until modern day. We're talking about innovations and double casking whiskey and things like that, and we look back in the archives, we actually have these bottles with the story written on the label on the front. Wow. Very Old Fine Whiskey, story of the fire. They also put out a bulletin to all their shareholders that said, hey, there was a fire down on Whisky Row, don't worry, we're back up and running, your money's safe, you know.
You're right.
And so these are the kind of things we can kind of go back and verify. So 1910 Old Fine Whiskey was the first double-barreled bourbon ever on record. And the way we bring it to life to tell the story of the fire is we basically create signature 100 proof as the base, which means it's fully mature. It's actually batched and proofed to 100. And then we put it in a secondary barrel that's been super charred.
Fire.
Yeah, like the fire. So it tells the story of the fire. You get this little smoky undertone. So this one's really sweet and really a little bit smoky. And it's going to pick up all of those layers of wood sugars from the double barreling, but it's also going to give you a little bit of, I think it comes across like coffee bean, like.
I can almost smell the sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, the sweetness in it.
Yeah, a little espresso, kind of mocha. It also has a kind of thing going on.
This shit is dangerous. Man.
And it's 93 proof for sippability.
I wouldn't put it in my coffee. I would pour a shot of it with my coffee.
Right.
But I wouldn't put it in my coffee.
Like a shot in a beer,
You'd
but
waste
shot in
liquor.
coffee.
Like my grandfather used to do it.
1810 is the year that this fire happened.
Year of the fire. Yep. And Old Fine Whiskey is what it was called.
That is
what it was called.
That is.
And it's not necessarily going to recreate the taste because those were poured into new barrels. But it's just the idea and the old model.
Yeah, none of these are really meant to recreate the taste of the products that were around back then because we've spent a century and a half getting better at what we do.
Right.
But they're really just meant to be inspired by it. And so
It's a better word.
Yeah.
Better word.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
Red thread, if you're into it, between what the story is and how we bring the product to life.
We've actually gotten better at this. We've actually gotten better at this. We don't want to go back to what
people all the time because they're like, "This is what it tasted like in 1870," and I'm like, "No, we would never know that."
It's got some coca in it too.
Yeah,
that's a great idea for a movie, though.
Now,
a time traveler who was actually in there with Old Forester in 1870 actually knows.
We'll do a little web series of it. We actually do have, so the oldest stuff I've ever nosed from the archives is from, I think, 1904 or 1906.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Sample bottle, and they'll let us smell it. And it smells not exactly the same, but you can get that kind of like creme brulee banana thing all the way throughout. And I think it's really interesting. There's like a through line.
Wow.
Very good.
That's very good, yeah. Again, it's only 93, which is...
Yeah, and that's because we know a double barrel is kind of a crafted innovation, and you want to be able to taste the layers and flavors that you get from that. So it's really proofed for people to be able to consume neat. But I know a lot of people that put this in their espresso martinis.
Okay. I can see that. I can see that. Well, why not? It's already complemented.
Yeah. Smoked old fashions. If you don't have a smoker that's a little too intense for you, you could use this in an old fashioned and just dial back the sweetness a little bit. And that's also something, it's all about understanding the flavors of each. And if you're going to mix in a cocktail, just really like leaning into them, playing with them the right way. All right.
Nice. We're getting there.
1910. Good year. Fire. Good year.
Good year.
Well, and there's been a history of fires on Whisky Row that is not the first or the last time there. So,
well, it is a flammable product.
Yeah.
And a bunch of drunk guys running in.
A lot of wood.
No. Speaking of Whisky Row, as a Louisvillian.
As a what?
Louisvillian. Where's the cool secret, like, what's like your best spot, like not tourist spot to like go, like your dive bar to like go?
So
to go
I'm laughing
drink?
because I just had a friend that's in the service industry post on Instagram the other day something like, because we had these big music festivals in town. And
Right.
It was something like telling people the neighborhood bar is snitching. I
agree.
Oh, shit.
I agree. I agree.
All right.
The worst.
No.
I totally agree. 'Cause I had a local that was my away from all my friends and family local that nobody knew about, and I made the mistake.
The movie there?
No, well,
Movie there?
no, well,
Yeah, really.
that's way after. That happened way after. But initially, years before that, I made the mistake of saying that this is my secret place. It's where I go, and now it's.
You gotta find another spot.
I gotta find another spot. It's not ruined, but it's like if I go there, there's a good chance I'm gonna run into you or
which is the whole reason you want to go there. So you know.
Okay, to be fair, I'll answer your
All right.
question. To be fair, I'll answer your
All right.
question. Like pockets of good bar districts in Louisville, and I love to drink in the Germantown area,
Okay,
which is a
Germantown.
lot of kind of dive beer bars. And things like that. The thing about Louisville
that's a
is
good enough
you're going to
answer.
find a good whiskey bar anywhere. But I tend to hang out in places that are a little bit more like dive focused.
Yes. Oh, my kind of girl.
But we also have we have some really cool craft cocktail bars. There's a spot called Epiphany in the Highlands that uses like farm to table ingredients. We've got
that's nice. That's nice.
I'm telling you, like some Louisville do like insane flavor.
Well, those
shit
would be
at
the
that bar.
libationary. Those would be the libationary scientists that I speak.
Yeah,
of.
I bet.
But I don't want to go to your dive
But at the
bars.
same super solid house serves too. So I think it's a little bit of a chameleon Epiphany, and so that's why I think it's so special because it does the craft thing without the pretentiousness, which I think is neat. Tartan House is actually a Scotch focused bar, but like they're a Scotch focused bar in bourbon country, and also just dynamite cocktails. They use a liquid nitrogen, so there's a little bit of like bar theater along with just like super well delivered cocktails. So those are ones like outside of Germantown that I think are like doing like
That's
a
what I was
bang-up
going to ask
job.
next. Right? I mean, it's going to ask next. Right? I mean, in
Are you
bourbon
going to Louisville anytime soon?
Well, no, but my college roommate lives there, so
Yeah.
you never know. I mean, is it majority bourbon-driven cocktails, or gin and tequila? I mean, are they making a resurgence too? Rum is popular.
Definitely, other spirits are popular, and I think we have a really well-informed trade community in Louisville because we're around these corporate suppliers, that are investing in our state. So, like our company owns Old Forester and Woodford, but we also sell Herradura. And so some of the bartenders we have really close relationships with, they're going to know as much about Herradura as they know about Old Forester if we're doing our job well, which I think our team does a great job.
I'm not a huge,
I'm
not a huge tequila person, but that is the brand that I have. That I have.
Same with great cocktail gin. So we've got great Ford's gin presence. And Louisville has some bars that are like, we have a gin focused bar called Darling's, awesome bar. We have some agave spots.
I have developed. I used to drink gin in college all the time, but and now I've
Very pretentious,
right. I'll be perfectly. I'll be completely candid. It's because the girl I was dating drank gin, so I drank gin. She liked gin. We drank gin. But I've started to appreciate gin again here in the last few years. Again, it's I forgot that that's a good cocktail, especially in the summer.
Yeah, it's another example. In the hands of a good bartender, you
Right.
can make some really cool flavor expressions using gin. And botanicals have way more range than what we can do in bourbon because we're confined by the ingredients we're allowed to use.
Which is interesting. We talk about gin because that brings up bathtub gin, which is what a lot of people made during Prohibition. As we get to the 1920 Prohibition style. I'll tell you what, I learned a few things. I learned a few things over the last 7 years.
So we leave off at 1910. We're on Whisky Row. Business is booming. The Ohio River and the railways really open up commercial business for downtown Louisville and for the bourbon community. And then Prohibition goes into effect, and this booming industry basically comes crashing down and is wiped out. And the government outlaws the sale and manufacturing of alcohol. 6 companies apply for a medicinal whiskey license. We get permit number 3 as Brown-Forman. And so the company continues to produce pints of medicinal whiskey under a handful of brand names, but the highest quality product they had in their stock and eventually would acquire from other people's stock would go under the Old Forester name because we were the founding brand for the company. So that was really kind of how we persevered throughout the Prohibition era.
Do you guys brand a Prohibition style labeling and everything like that in a pint at all?
Like in a pint?
Like
no.
old school.
No, we don't have an old school pint. There was a promotional
like
thing.
A medicinal pint? Like a medicinal pint?
Yes.
I've seen a pic. It predated me, pre-COVID times. They did this little promotional thing in a pint. I thought that was pretty cool. But we don't currently have anything that's in like an old style medicinal pint.
It could be shipped with like a piece of paper with an RX on it with a doctor's signature.
So in our archives we have actual prescription.
Right, that'd
assets.
be cool, right?
I have in my collectibles, my whatever you want to call them upstairs. I have a prescription
for whiskey.
For whiskey, yeah, I have whiskey. Yeah, I have that was a gift 5-10 years ago. 5-10 years ago, that's actually
that's cool.
A certificate.
Nice. What symptoms does whiskey?
All
treat?
Your ailments.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. I don't know because it's kept them all away.
Great answer.
During Prohibition, we like to say a headache or a hangnail, like it was just anything. Anything you come up with. Like if you look back in the history of like alcohol as medicine, anti-inflammatory was like a lot of it because it makes pain go away temporarily. It makes it come back.
Anxiety. Anxiety.
Anxiety. Digestive issues. Like if you think about digestives, like that was a major use for alcohol, like historically. So there were definitely some things that it would be used for, but
Sleep.
For Prohibition, sleep aid. But for Prohibition purposes, it was really just going to your doctor, getting a prescription, and then cashing in on your medicinal whiskey.
Right.
And people always ask me, what were you doing in 1919 versus 1920 to make it turn medicinal all of a sudden? And the answer is nothing. We actually did less to it. We didn't add water. So that's what makes this Prohibition style. So it's 115 proof, which is really the cask strength of Prohibition era. They went in a barrel at a lower proof back then. They'd come out around 115.
This smells the best of all of them.
What? I'm only laughing because we're doing this in the afternoon, and I can't speak for him because he's got kids to take care of tonight. But you're going to be in bed by 7.
Oh no, we're in the playoffs, dude. I'm staying.
You say that. You say that now.
They're on lane.
You say that now.
Just
in 12 years, I'm going.
I've been secretly texting, making arrangements so I don't have to drive any children. We're good.
So 115 proof, obviously we're jumping up, and I always like to remind people 93 to 115 means you might need a sip or two to kind of acclimate your palate.
But not really. I mean, it's not that big.
What we've been able to achieve, and really the toasting with the charring and the heat cycling are the difference makers here. It allows us to get this high proof, and it's part of why people like our barrel strength single barrels. We can get high proof, but the finish doesn't leave you like breathing fire. It's got like palatability, and it's got a lot of dark chocolate and nuttiness, and a little bit of like graham cracker. So really
especially
enjoyable.
in the finish, you can taste all those things in the finish.
Yeah, this one always reminds me of s'mores. It's like toasted marshmallow, chocolate, graham cracker, dark chocolate.
So this fall, when I can't have a s'more, I'll just pour myself a bottle of 1920.
Yeah. And we're all out of marshmallows.
This is actually our best seller, which, a lot of whiskey drinkers have been into the higher proof offerings the last several years, and I think that's why they like this, is that it's so drinkable. But I mean, even not everybody likes high proof whiskey, and this still sells great because people really like the fact that it amps up all the flavor, the sweetness, the spice, the body, the structure, and it's going to be great on ice because as it dilutes, it's going to keep its flavor pretty consistently. And then we see this in a lot of craft cocktails that use other like bitter, boozy, competitive modifiers. So things like Boulevardiers, which is playing with Campari, like some of this is going to get a little hidden in a Boulevardier, but this is really going to punch through. I have a bartender back in Louisville I like to provide a bottle to when I can get in touch with her, and does craft eggnog around the holidays. This is a really good eggnog.
That'd be really interesting.
Yeah,
really good.
Wow.
Super tasty.
Wow.
Super tasty. We also recently workshop
that's a fancy eggnog.
Yeah. I gave it to like friends and family for Christmas.
Okay, good. Because you'd have to. That'd have to be a special circle of eggnog holiday. Because that's really good whiskey.
Oh yeah, that's everybody coming in town for the holiday.
Somebody that's just hey, Christmas party. What is this? What am I drinking?
Right, they don't care.
They don't care. They don't know. They don't want.
Come to my house for Friendsgiving. What do you think they expect from me?
The best. The best. What's nothing but the best.
What's the retail on these loose?
Whisky Row series, and I don't like to quote price because I am in different states all the time.
Yeah,
but like
Ohio's
$50 to $70 roughly.
So we're not talking 120. We're not talking $120.
No.
This is under 80.
That's everything Old Forester has
maybe
done. I mean, even though when it gets what some people would say, I don't want to spend more than $50 on a bottle of whiskey.
Right.
But they're worth it, and they've never gone insane, if you will, except the birthday bourbon. If people want to get the birthday bourbon, but the birthday bourbon
comes out once a year, very
once
limited.
A year, it's special. It's okay, and it's worth it.
Yeah. It's a good segue. Especially a good segue to this.
She's reaching for that one, 1924.
Yes, I did, because the 1924 is probably one of those more expensive bottles.
This is put the cork right up against the microphone.
Okay. We'll get the pop. All right.
We love the pop. Yep. Oh! Best pop ever.
Let's go!
Bravo.
First, right at the last second, it was going to be like nothing.
Yeah, right.
But it wasn't.
All right, so tell us about the 1924.
That is an extension of the Whisky Row series, so everything that we've tasted so far is going to be available, hopefully, anywhere you guys walk into and want to find it. But we have more history to tell. Obviously, we can't just stop at Prohibition. We've been producing our product continuously since then. And we wanted to deliver something that showed our range as a brand. Let me give you a little bit. Did you have water in there?
I'm the one that had water in it. I'm the one that had water in it.
No, I don't think I would.
Okay, that just looked like light to me all of a sudden.
Let me take a little more just in case.
Yeah. There you go.
That's enough.
Pour it over your water.
No.
So is this just come out? This new expression? Is this fairly new?
This is, sorry, I interrupted my own self. This is a limited annual release. So basically, what I was saying was the Whisky Row series is available everywhere, but we have more history to tell, and we want to show our kind of breadth as a brand. And so we have higher age statement product or new innovations that we want to continue to kind of interject these stories into the portfolio.
Yeah.
So this tells a story during Prohibition, 1924. We'd started running out of our whiskey stock. So fun fact about Prohibition, you didn't get a license to keep making whiskey. You just had a license to sell what you had already made when the law went into effect. And so those 6 companies have a finite amount of product. Everyone gets sick, stays sick for several years, and you just dwindle your stock.
Stay sick.
And so we started buying barrel stock from other companies, as did everybody else. And the government passed kind of an ancillary law in 1923 that said you need to move all of your stuff to one location so that basically they could keep tabs on it. And so that's when we actually purchased a distillery site that went on to become one of our main production sites and now our corporate headquarters. We've been there for 100 years now. And that was a huge deal for our company, but it also was a huge deal for the brand because it was the first time we were taking in product that was different recipes that we started bottling as Old Forester. And like I said, the highest quality product that came into the company at that time went under the Old Forester name. So we thought that was a good reason to put out something with a different recipe. So every bourbon that we put out on the market is one bourbon recipe except for this bottle. This one is a little bit more corn, a little bit less rye, and then for shits we age it for a decade. So it picks up. Yeah, in that heat cycling. So it picks up.
That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate.
I'll be saving that.
What do you call it? An infinity bottle.
bottle.
So 10 years in the heat, a lot of maturation notes, but you'll notice the spice is coming more from the barrel than it is from the rye. You don't get a whole lot of that pepperiness.
Yeah, real Italian spices.
Yeah.
You know, the basil.
Italian spices. Yeah. Italian spices.
Yeah.
Say that because a lot of people get like sticky caramel and like dusty cinnamon and kind of like robust notes like that, but other people get really savory notes from this. So I think part of the age statement makes it really like, and people pick up really different stuff from it. I get a little bit of like a sherry. When I bring it up to the nose.
I hate sherry. She's such a bitch.
Really threw you
I'm
off.
glad this is the last bottle. Both of them. Both of them. I know the signs after 8 years. I know the signs. I know the signs.
I haven't. I'm not the one. I'm not the one who spilled.
No shit.
That was a.
I'm kidding.
I was enthusiastic. That was an enthusiastic knockover.
That is really good.
The guy
Go for it.
I wanted.
Go for it. It's here as a thank you for having us on the podcast. So please enjoy. Yeah, it's definitely, we talk about texture. And so each one of these has been different flavor, but also really different mouthfeel. And this one delivers on that as well. And it's really velvety. And it has spice, but again, it's not spicy.
Not spicy at all. Spicy at all. Not spicy at all, but there's definitely something to it. And I'm still,
it's 100 proof, but when you, it's like it goes right down with it's so smooth.
Yeah.
It's so smooth.
It's thin.
So smooth.
It's thin in a good way. I don't know. I'm not a master taster.
No, none of us are. I mean, that's the one thing, I wanted to ask you about that as you travel, because we're starting to wrap up here. As you travel, I'm sure, as a master taster, and by the way, you're extremely humble with that position, which I love. But I'm sure you run across. We always say and have for years, we are not whiskey experts by any stretch of the imagination. We just appreciate whiskey and love to learn about it.
We're enthusiasts,
and that's the way we like to approach it. But I'm sure you come across people that are just like, well, I know just as much about whiskey as you do, and I would never in a million years claim that to somebody like yourself.
The barrel came from the woods of the Great South.
So you probably come across people who are enthusiastic like we are, and are anxious to learn.
More
and
that
probably
than
come
anything.
across pretentious people.
Yeah, less and less these days. I will say it's like definitely evolved to where it's just a lot more enthusiasm, and sometimes it's people really wanting to know a lot of granular stuff, and that's awesome. Like I never mind talking to people about that. And like the showboating, I feel like that's kind of toned down.
That's a great word for it.
But at the end of the day, sometimes, and this is a great way for anybody that kind of bucks up, is just like squash it. Like I'll tell them, I love to say I'm all depth and no breadth. I know a shit ton about Old Forester and maybe a couple other brands I've spent a lot of intimate time working on. But most of these time, these guys do know more than me because they know about this, that, and the other brand that they're following intimately on Reddit every night, and I'm like, I don't have the time. I have like a toddler and like friends. So not saying they don't, but I'm just saying people put a lot of time into intimately understanding brands they're enthusiastic about, and many of them, and I don't engage in the industry that way. So I think sometimes they are the more
also I find it also maddening when I talk to my friends who have been I have shifted over to bourbon over the last 20 years, and they're like, oh man, I can't drink anything that's under 100 proof anymore. I go, yes you can. What is wrong with you? It's just not, if it's not 100 proof or more, it's not satisfying.
That makes no sense.
I do think that the showboating has evolved into the proof conversation.
Into the proof conversation,
which is
right?
really a conversation which nobody wants to have again. Nobody wants to have again.
Yeah, it's just like,
you're a beer girl.
Are you crazy? And I'll be talking to somebody who this is a person that I'll do a beer and a shot with. I'll do a shot of Jack Daniels and a beer with this person. Hams. And this is a person who'll say, "Oh, when I drink bourbon, I can't drink anything less."
I hate it.
You just did a shot of Jack. You just did a third shot of Jack.
No, you nailed it on the head, Melissa. It's almost like the higher the proof, it's the best.
No,
yeah, people really. I said this the other day. People really started to attach, like they've rewired their brains to think that ABV equals value.
Yeah. No,
and I like to remind people that like it cracks me up when people call themselves like bourbon purists, but they only like cask strength, because I'm like, okay, well, when this industry evolved, it was 90 proof and 100 proof. Right. For palatability. This was because medicine wasn't meant to be palatable, this 115 proof. And so it's great that we've evolved as an industry that people can taste a range like that. And what I tell people when they kind of like poo-poo proofing is that you're cutting out, poo-poo proofing. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know either, but you should mark it.
When they cutting out a step that the distiller has crafted for flavor, like part of proof is deciding where we want you to drink this. And so you're just kind of eliminating that.
I think I actually become pretentious in reverse. And the other way, I'm like, you're an idiot. You're missing out on some great flavor profiles with 93 proof whiskeys and
yeah.
and so forth.
But I think that conversation is changing too. I kind of see the pendulum starting.
I hope it is. I hope it is. I'm going to take your word for it.
The interesting, weird, nobody's really heard of, and I go, I'll try that because, okay, I like the label. And then I'm surprised sometimes, but most of the time
right.
not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do. I learned the hard way. I would call something funky, and but I think to me funky is
funky's
good.
a good thing.
Yeah.
Funky's a good thing.
So it's to your point. It's everybody's got their own kind of thing.
Well,
their
and
own,
what I like
their own
we say
language.
What we say a lot in single barrels sometimes, having that conversation, because in single barrels, sometimes people want to pick something that they like versus what's going to sell, on shelf or behind the bar.
Right.
And we call it masses versus asses. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what the funky conversation gets down to is like
masses versus asses.
I love that. And I tell you another thing I'm going to do is my brother-in-law was a 20 years a confirmed Scotch guy, and I brought him into the bourbon world, and he's another one that went bourbon crazy. Well, right now, he's in the last 5 years, he's been into the Dusties. He's been buying unopened bottles of products that have never, and in all the last 4 years that I've been sampling the Dusties that he's purchased, I cannot completely recall if he has any old Foresters, so I'm going to get on his ass.
Yeah, he's got to seek some out.
To seek out some dusty old Foresters.
That's one of the perks of working on this brand is I've had the chance to taste 40s, 50s, 60s. Yeah, actually,
wow.
Every decade except like the early 2000s because we weren't putting out very
What's
much.
the difference? Is there any difference? Is there any difference? Have you been close?
As an industry, the stuff in the 80s and 90s got lighter and like softer because that was kind of what people were interested in at the time.
But still good.
Still good.
Yeah.
Still good.
Yeah, and it was 86 proof, 90 proof, and 100 proof have been our expressions one way or another
standards,
the entire time. Yeah, our bottled and bond was really popular, so a lot of it tastes very similar. The 40s and 50s, again, across the industry, if you can find Dusties,
that'd be interesting.
they have a lot of funk. They have a lot of funk because it's different back then. There was probably less cleaning regulation at facilities and just like the management of a distillery was very different back then.
Very moldy.
Grain production was different back then. So that
like
stuff
Parliament Funkadelic funk? What are you talking about?
There's just, yeah.
Good funk.
It's really hard to explain like what funk means, but when you taste an old Dusty, it's like a little funky. It's a
little funky, and it's like that bottle of Jack Daniel's up there. That's the old proof. That's the 90 proof that's up there. That was a bottle left over from my uncle's wedding, and when Jeff was so kind to bring one of the distillers from Jack Daniel's here. He looked at the bottom of the bottle, and it was his grandfather. Chris Fletcher. Yeah, it was his grandfather. I just love the how things connect.
Well, and that's something cool. So fun fact, I know we're wrapping up soon, but Brown-Forman with this founding brand plus Jack and Herradura, we have 3 century-and-a-half old brands.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so 150 years of all of those, which means you can reach back and find vintage stuff from so many of our brands, which is why our archives team is so
Think about the brands that are that old. I think Coca-Cola is that old.
Mm-hmm.
There's
apparently Heinz ketchup.
Heinz ketchup. Does it last that long?
Yeah, I know. It's a cool part of again American history, and that's an interesting lens with which to look at the bourbon industry.
Well, this has been great, and I want to thank you. This is going to be a self-indulgent plug, but you were at OHLQ yesterday, and you're doing something with OHLQ tonight as well. I too am working on something with OHLQ.
Oh, cool!
And this has been kind of what it's going to be about. It's called From Bottle to Bar.
Oh, love that.
And what we're doing is we're going to Ohio distilleries who are making libations, be they whiskeys, bourbons, gins, vodkas, whatever the case might be, getting a little history. Not how you make it. That's been done. Sure. I get it. But and then going from the bottle, I'll go to Dino's Bourbon, and then I'll say, okay, great. And I'll say, okay, great. Now tell me where I can... What fun local bar can I go to where they do something fun with Dino's Bourbon?
Yeah.
And I go to Melissa's, and I go.
So
it's like Triple D.
That's cool.
Anthony Bourdain meets Steiner's Drive-In.
There you go.
Basically. So yeah, we just shot the first one.
Neither of those were.
But we're doing it, and so but what I want to capture in those 12 to 15 minutes segments that we'll be doing is this.
Yeah.
Is this the history, the conversation? I mean, you travel all over the place. You meet people. You were at a master's and so. See, I find the stories behind the bottle just as interesting as the ones that are on a daily basis. So, I mean, you travel a lot, and I'm almost out of time, but I was going to say, is your wife a bourbon lover?
Bourbon.
She likes
she
bourbon?
Doesn't drink it all the time. She definitely appreciates a good tequila cocktail, gin cocktail.
Okay.
She likes wine a lot.
So
Yeah.
that's good. So when you go home and take a break, there's other things you can do. There's other things that you can do and sample together and enjoy together. That's great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. This was a great conversation. It was so nice to share the 1924 with you guys.
Thank you so much. I'll negotiate with Jeff as to what can stay before you guys go off to the next place.
She has other tastings to get to.
He always manages to leave little something behind.
What's your thoughts on Columbus?
Only because of Chip. I feel bad Chip didn't get it. Let's do the faux.
No,
we're doing this for
really
Chip. We're doing this for
Chip.
We're asking for Chip.
Just real quick, is this the first time?
No, I've been to Columbus probably about 4 or 5 times.
And then what's your thought? I mean, there's a bunch of distilleries right now that seem to be thriving. What's your loose thoughts on the sister city of Louisville?
Yeah, the distilling. So the bourbon scene in Columbus.
I don't know.
I haven't been to a lot of the distilleries in many years. I think 3-4 years ago, I maybe popped into a couple of them. I love tasting products from other states. I love that there's so much bourbon being made even outside of Kentucky, because you get this, like, again, different point of view for that flavor profile. So I think there's some awesome stuff coming out of this state, and I love that the state's really leaned into it and like owned it as part of their craft community. And I always have a great time in Columbus. I always tell people Columbus is kind of a sleeper city. It's really fun. Great food. I always eat really well when I'm here.
It's I would not be surprised if Columbus is creeping up into that top 10 list of cities as far as dining.
They just moved from the Bay Area to Columbus, so
there you go.
That's a nod to Columbus.
Yeah.
San Francisco.
That should be I should put that on the signs on the road. Signs on the road.
Columbus, we're as cool as San Francisco. Come on in.
Melissa, thank you so much for
Thank you,
everything.
guys.
Jeff, thank you, buddy.
Yay, Jeff.
Thank you for organizing it. I know you got a full night ahead of you still to go. We mentioned that earlier in the podcast.
Sounds like y'all do.
I don't know. They do. I don't know.
I'm watching some
basketball
football and watching some baseball.
I'm going to put on
That sounds like a stacked itinerary all around.
I don't know what these two have to do. I
I
have to do something. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this as well, because this is a rare experience, and it's very seldom. I shouldn't say seldom, but it is. It's seldom that we actually focus completely on and get whiskey-centric and whiskey business. And I can't think of a more delightful person to share the afternoon with.
Well, thank you.
You were
Likewise.
You were great. Thank you so much for indulging us. I appreciate it. Thank you for bringing a bevy of products along with you. Continued success.
Thank you.
I don't know how long the reign of a master taster is.
I don't know either, man.
Do you have dragons?
I don't know.
Do you have dragons?
I don't know. I don't know if that position is like when you master taster. We must overthrow her. I don't know. I don't know if there's a coup and somebody takes you out, or do you get to leave on your leisure. But congratulations.
Thank you.
On having that position and for having that amount of influence on a great product that everybody can share across the country. So thank you so much. Thank you, Greg Hansberry. Thank you, John Whitney.
Yes.
Thank you again, my friend Jeff. Get to this business.
The business
you
always forget about.
Whiskey Business, the podcast, not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey.
Well, don't say it fast. If you're going to say it slowly and informatively so the people
find Whiskey Business at any one of your favorite podcasting apps. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button,
please,
and we'll just go ahead. We'll show up right there in your inbox. YouTube Whiskey Business with Tripodis.
Yeah.
Hit the bell. Ding ding
ding.
You'll
ding ding.
You'll get notifications every time we get
whiskybusinesspod.com.
Correct.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks to Evergreen. That's it. Thanks to Evergreen, our podcasting.
We're going to be on with a live show in a month, right?
What? That's what Hansberry usually does.
I know. I'm taking it over, man.
You make up shit. You make up shit. You make up shit that's not
Shutter.
true.
It's Shutter.
It's Shutter for Halloween.
That's right.
All right, we are wrapping it up. Thank you so much. My name is Dino Tripodis. Until the next bottle, or if we're lucky, bottles.
Wow.
See ya.